We did not include any evidence in our report, and I say our, that's NSA, FBI, and CIA with my office, the Director of National Intelligence, that had anything, that had any reflection of collusion between members of the Trump campaign and the Russians. There was no evidence of that included in our report.
I understand that, but does it exist?
Between members of the Trump campaign and the Russians. There was no evidence of that included in our report.
I understand that, but does it exist?
Not to my knowledge.
There was no evidence of that included in our report. Chuck Todd then asked, I understand that, but does it exist? You say, no, not to my knowledge. Is that still accurate?
It is.
You asked me whether I was aware of any evidence of collusion, and I declined to answer because answering would reveal classified information. I believe that that's the same answer that Director Comey gave to this committee when he was asked this question as well. And he made clear, and I'd like to make clear, that just because I say I can't answer it, you should not draw from that an assumption that that means that the answer is yes.
He needs to focus on his agenda, stay on message, and not be sidetracked by this Russia investigation, which a lot of it is just perpetuated by the media. The American people are looking for him to be a leader.
Come on.
And that's what he'll do.
Come on, Paris. I mean, perpetuated by the media.
Sidetracked by this Russia investigation, which a lot of it is just perpetuated by the media.
The American people are looking for him to be a leader.
Come on.
And that's what he'll do.
Come on, Paris. I mean, perpetuated by the media, we just have news that Michael Flynn is now going to plead the Fifth. That's not perpetuated by the media. That's called reporting the news.
These are the people that want to run our country, folks.
He's referring to this email, stolen by Russia and released by WikiLeaks today. Stolen by Russia and released by WikiLeaks today.
Mr. Secretary, given their responsibilities and authorities in cybersecurity, does the DOD or NSA or any U.S. agency for that matter have any evidence that the Russians, either their agents, operatives, or government, that they hacked into the emails of the Democratic National Committee?
I don't have anything for you. The FBI is leading the investigation of that incident. Mick, I really have to refer you to the FBI director.
And just because the representatives of the DNC keep quoting experts and researchers, it almost sounds like the reporters referring to their government sources. But what is the obligation of the U.S. government to inform anyone, including the likes of the DNC, if there is evidence that the foreign government, for example, has hacked into?
I really need to refer that to the FBI. They're conducting this investigation.
When did the DNC provide access to the FBI for your technical folks to review what happened?
Well, we never got direct access to the machines themselves. The DNC in the spring of 2016 hired a firm that ultimately shared with us their forensics from their review of the system.
Director, FBI notified the DNC early, before any information was put on WikiLeaks, and when you have still never been given access to any of the technical or the physical machines that were hacked by the Russians.
That's correct, although we got the forensics from the pros that they hired, which again, best practice is always to get access to the machines themselves, but this, my folks tell me, was an appropriate substitute.
The CIA and other U.S. intelligence agencies have concluded the Russian government was behind the email hack into the Democratic National Committee and other political organizations, but have yet to produce their evidence publicly. Here to explain all of this is Dmitry Alperovitch. He's the co-founder of CrowdStrike, the company that did the investigating. Dmitry Alperovitch, let me start with you. What is this new information?
Well, this is an interesting case that we've uncovered actually all the way in Ukraine, where Ukrainian artillerymen were targeted by the same hackers that we call Fancy Bear that targeted the DNC, but this time they were targeting their cell phones to actually try to understand their location so that the Russian military and Russian artillery forces can actually target them in the open battle.
And so what's the connection between that and what happened to the Democratic National Committee?
Well, the interesting thing is that it was the same variant of the same malicious code that we had seen at the DNC. This was a phone version. What we saw at the DNC was for the personal computers, but essentially the same source used by this actor that we call Fancy Bear. And when you think about, well, who would be interested in targeting Ukrainian artillerymen in eastern Ukraine, who has interest in hacking the Democratic Party, Russian government comes to mind, but specifically Russian military.
In December last year, the CrowdStrike cybersecurity firm thought it dropped another bombshell by investigating that Russia hacked Ukraine's artillery systems, which led to major losses of Ukraine's armed forces. Not as large in scope as its initial suggestion that Moscow hacked the DNC, which was put into the heaviest rotation across the media world. And the report was illustrated by the, evil cyber commies to amplify the message. First, the designer of the artillery app, a Ukrainian, slammed the report on his Facebook page, calling it nonsensical and that he has the sole control of the software. Then, the Ukrainian Defense Ministry came out with a statement in English debunking the allegations. And this was followed by a number of independent cybersecurity experts like Jeffrey Carr, casting a major shadow of doubt on CrowdStrike's investigation. Was this all over the news? No. This network almost sole-handedly reported on the possible falsifications about CrowdStrike, while their co-founder, also a senior fellow at Russia-bashing DC think tank, the Atlantic Council, popped up on all major outlets.
Which, again, best practice is always to get access to the machines themselves, but this, my folks tell me, was an appropriate substitute.
Resolve questions in my mind as to whether or not the Russians have been successful in getting U.S. persons involved in the campaign or not to work on their behalf. Again, either wittingly or unwittingly, he went on to say, I saw interaction that raised question in my mind as to what was the true nature of it. That is more than just, the worst part of it. That is what he said over and over again.
Again, he constant questioning. He was unable to point to any specific evidence.
He was unable to point to any specific evidence.
And I think that's what we're going to continue to see there. And my fear is our constant focusing on the Russians is deflecting away for some other things that we need to be investigating in. There's still some question as to whether the intrusion at the DNC server was an insider job or whether or not it was the Russians. Yet
what evidence? I'm sorry.
Insider job or whether or not it was the Russians. Yet
what evidence? I'm sorry. The insider job, what are you referring to here? Because I hope it's not this information that Fox News just refused to be reporting.
Welcome back to Hannity. So more on the story of murdered Democratic National Committee staffer Seth Rich. Former D.C. homicide detective Rod Wheeler, who was hired by a third party to investigate the murder on behalf of the family, says Mr. Rich was communicating with WikiLeaks before he was killed.
Clear that up right now, exactly what it was that I found. Now, I have never seen the emails myself directly. I haven't even seen the computer that Seth Rich used. Here's the problem with all of this. I don't even know where the computer is. I checked with the police department. They said they don't know where the computer is, and the FBI. They say they don't have the computer. Someone, a high-ranking official at the DNC, check this out. A high-ranking official at the DNC, when I called the police department, they got that information and called the Rich family wanting to know why was I snooping around.
And welcome back to Hannity. Questions continue to swirl around the mysterious murder of DNC staffer Seth Rich. Now, following Rich's death, there was suspicion that he may have been the source of the DNC emails that were leaked to WikiLeaks. Now, not the Russians, as the left claims. Now, suspiciously, 12 days after Seth Rich died, WikiLeaks published the leaked emails from the DNC. Also, following Rich's death, WikiLeaks offered a $20,000 reward for information leading to the conviction of the person or persons responsible for this murder. Then in August of 2016, during an interview on Dutch TV, Julian Assange of WikiLeaks implies pretty strongly that Seth Rich may have been a WikiLeaks source. Watch this.
Whistleblowers go to significant efforts to get us material and often very significant risks. As a 27-year-old works for the DNC, who was shot in the back, murdered just 2 weeks ago. for unknown reasons as he was walking down the street in Washington. So
that was just a robbery, I believe, wasn't it?
no, there's no finding. So
What are you suggesting? What are you suggesting?
I'm suggesting that our sources take risks, and they become concerned to see things occurring like that.
But was he one of your sources then? I mean,
we don't comment on who our sources are.
But why make the suggestion about a young guy being shot in the streets of Washington?
Because we have to understand how high the stakes are in the United States.
Now,
some more trouble for Fox News. Advertisers abandoning Sean Hannity after he promoted false conspiracy theories surrounding after he promoted false conspiracy theories surrounding the death of a Democratic National Committee staffer. Staffer's name is Seth Rich. He was killed in what police called a botched robbery. ABC's Rebecca Jarvis here with the story. Good morning, Rebecca.
Good morning. Fox News even retracting a similar story from its website, saying in a statement the article had not gone through the high degree of editorial scrutiny we require for all our reporting. Now Cars.com and Peloton exercise bikes are among the companies pulling advertising from Sean Hannity's show. This morning, some advertisers pulling out of Sean Hannity's Fox News Channel show as the host comes under fire for promoting a false conspiracy theory about the death of a former DNC staffer. On Wednesday, Cars.com and exercise bike maker Peloton both indicated they're pulling ads from Hannity's show. Despite the controversy, Hannity's ratings have seen a spike, up 50% in total viewers from last year.
Questions continue to swirl around the mysterious murder of DNC staffer Seth Rich.
Hannity has been pursuing this theory that Seth Rich was actually the person who leaked DNC emails to WikiLeaks and that he was assassinated by the party as a result of that.
Investigators say there is no indication that Rich's death in 2016 is connected to his employment at the DNC.
This kid got shot in the back. They said it was a robbery.
On Tuesday, the Rich family sent a letter to Hannity's show pleading with them to stop spreading the unproven theory. Rich's parents writing in a Washington Post op-ed, those theories are baseless and they're unspeakably cruel.
Check this out. A high-ranking official at the DNC, when I called the police department, they got that information and called the Rich family wanting to know why was I snooping around.
These are baseless and they're unspeakably cruel. On Tuesday, after meeting with executives and considering the plea from the Rich family, Hannity appeared to have a change of heart.
Out of respect for the family's wishes for now, I am not discussing this matter at this time.
But following that statement on Hannity's program, Hannity tweeting, "I'm working harder than ever to get to the truth the family deserves." Stay tuned. Fox News declining to comment.
I'm going to bring Jennifer M. and Jennifer W., please, Mr. Trump.
You put yourself in a very bad position, in my opinion.
I appreciate that. But I intend to maintain my integrity. I believe in Toril. I believe in her abilities. And as a result, I am incapable of bringing her in here. Whether or not that leads to my defeat,
Which it might.
It very well could, but there's something I will never put on the line, and that is my integrity, and I will not allow that to be set aside in order for one short-term gain.
Good morning to you and Fox News. Even
what evidence? I'm sorry.
Insider job, or whether or not it was the Russians.
What evidence? I'm sorry. The insider job. What are you referring to here? Because I hope it's not this information that Fox News just refused to be reporting.
Well, again, there's stuff circulating on the internet. My question is, why haven't
what's
the federal
circulating on the internet? What's circulating on the internet that you think is worthy of a congressional investigation? Because the D.C. police are investigating this, and so far they haven't said there's any there.
We will note and put to the side that nobody praised what James Comey did to Hillary Clinton during the campaign and after more than the president
himself. He's likely to change his mind, that's his right. But in terms of the timing, so rushed. Kellyanne, Rosenstein on the job, just 2 weeks. The memos, the letters from yesterday, all dated yesterday, reporting that the president put Jeff Sessions, who should have nothing to do with anything related to the Russian investigations, on the case to find reasons to fire Comey. All this happening just as the Russian investigation is heating up.
It seems very, very connected. Your take?
There's so much conjecture there. Let me unpack them one at a time.
So here we go again. You have said, you have been very outspoken about this, Jeffrey Toobin.
Yes, sir.
Do you think that there's a cover-up here? This is just beyond the realm for you.
Well, I don't know whether there's been a cover-up. What there has been is a travesty. But the fact that he did this will disgrace his memory for as long as this presidency is remembered.
There's a hypothetical. If he appoints someone, you say.
Who's to say he wouldn't fire this person too? Look at his record so far. Sally Yates, gone. Preet Bharara, told that he was going to stay, gone. James Comey, gone. All three of whom had the potential to investigate and trouble the Trump presidency.
All three appointed by Democrats. All three appropriately replaced by a Republican. But what we think is that maybe
it was appropriate that James Comey. Why do they have 10-year terms?
Well, I think it was appropriate that he not be the director of the FBI. I think a lot of this is his fault. I think he should have resigned. He should have looked in the mirror and said to himself, "I am not trusted by Democrats. I am not trusted by Republicans. I am not trusted by the American public," and he should have resigned.
Yeah.
Welcome back to our special report. We're covering multiple breaking stories tonight. I want to start with one of them and go to you, Tim Naphtali, presidential historian, because CNN reporting tonight that White House lawyers beginning at least to research, consult other lawyers about an impeachment process.
And I will fight every day until he is impeached.
He should be charged by way of impeachment.
Is in danger from one of the most incompetent presidents we've ever had, and I think we ought to start the process.
A longtime Republican Cincinnati judge says he's seen enough and calls for President Trump's impeachment.
But they know I don't subscribe to that. In other words, again, if you're talking about impeachment, you're talking about what are the facts. Not I don't like him and I don't like his hair and I think what are the facts? I don't like what he said about this or that. What are the facts that you would make a case on? What are the rules that he may have violated? If you don't have that case, you're just participating in more hearsay.
The case for impeachment.
I'm sorry, look at that. Just look at that cover. That is, just put the cover back up. That is liberal catnip. You can't tell me that any liberal can pass by that, Willie, and not by that book immediately.
They should just start printing the bestseller list now. What specifically would be the articles of impeachment in the House of Representatives right now, for example?
Well, right now, I think you could certainly write something up on conflicts of interest.
Let's assume that's true. Show me the criminal statute. I still sit here as a civil libertarian. I don't want us ever to become what Stalinist Russia became when Stalin was told by Lavrenti Beria, show me the man and I'll find you the crime. What is the crime? What is the crime? What is the crime?
But Professor...
What is the crime?
But Professor, because what the president has said is there was no collusion. Period.
I understand that.
There's a difference between there was no illegal collusion and there was collusion.
I agree with you. That's a political issue, but that doesn't give the Mueller jurisdiction. Mueller has no jurisdiction to explore whether he made political mistakes, did terrible things, engaged in wrongdoing. Only criminal conduct.
Aiding and abetting the hacking of telephones.
Absolutely. You know, aiding and abetting requires more than knowledge.
This is an extraordinary situation that we need to know about. And for the first threshold to cross, you seem so convinced that there has been no criminal violation. You seem so convinced that there has been no criminal violation. Let this investigation.
Stunning reports that the President of the United States shared classified information with the Russians in the Oval Office. This is CNN Tonight. I'm Don Lemon. The White House tonight circling the wagons, saying the story is false. But two former officials knowledgeable about the situation tell CNN.
Let me tell you what two former officials knowledgeable of the situation tell CNN, that the main points of the Post story are accurate, that the president shared classified information with the Russian foreign minister.
It's been further reported that President Trump shared highly sensitive code word information with Russia, putting at risk U.S. lives and jeopardizing sources and methods. Director, are the Russians worthy of receiving such information in the manner alleged?
I believe it's important for the U.S. Intelligence to provide to any of our foreign partners any information related to terrorist threats to foreign countries or their citizens. And that's why I authorized the provision of classified information numerous times to the Russians that I believe saved Russian lives.
Elsewhere in the interview, he says that Comey is a showboat, a grandstander, and he wanted him out, Jim Sciutto, because the FBI, in the president's words, was in turmoil.
That's contradicted by many people inside the Bureau that myself and my colleagues have spoken with. Many have enormous confidence in him and were upset and shocked by his dismissals.
As the president heads overseas, sources tell CNN some officials in the National Security Council are hoping upon hope that President Trump will not cause any international or diplomatic incident.
Pamela, what have you learned?
Well, Anderson, tonight multiple sources telling CNN that Russian officials bragged in conversations during the presidential campaign that they had cultivated such a strong relationship with former Trump advisor Michael Flynn that they believe that they could use him to influence Donald Trump and his team. We are hearing now finally some details from the Trump White House after an entire day of silence. Details that might shed some light on a bizarre set of statements. On the phone with me now, our senior White House correspondent, Jim Acosta. So, Jim, what can you tell me?
Yes, Pamela, that's right. We can tell you that President Trump was very frustrated with his senior staff and communications team on Friday morning, just before he departed for Mar-a-Lago. According to one source that I spoke to, quote, nobody has seen him that upset.
A source close to former FBI Director James Comey tells me that there are two reasons why President Trump fired Comey. A source close to former FBI Director James Comey tells me that there are two reasons why President Trump fired Comey.
This is CNN Breaking News.
Good evening, I'm Erin Burnett, and we are following the breaking news. Sources telling CNN that the former FBI Director Jim Comey wrote a memo stating that President Donald Trump asked him to end the investigation into the former National Security Advisor General Michael Flynn.
How Sean Spicer, the very visible representative of the White House, who is an extremely devout Catholic, was not included. And we actually have some reporting here at CNN that, he felt left out by this, which you cannot blame him for. What happened?
The White House does not confirm or deny unsubstantiated claims based on illegal leaks from anonymous individuals. The president will continue to focus on his agenda that he was elected to pursue by the American people.
Rob Brownstein, let me get your reaction to this.
Continue to focus on his agenda that he was elected to pursue by the American people.
CNN.
Sources, not just CNN
reports. Two former officials knowledgeable of the situation confirmed to CNN that the main points of the story. Two former officials. Tell you what, come out, name those people, then we'll have something to talk about.
One, we protect sources. Two, it's not just CNN. It's Washington Post, New York Times, Wall Street Journal, CNN, ABC,
yeah, but who
NBC.
are the sources?
Carl.
Who are the sources? Oh, because they're hiding behind this anonymity.
And
that's what
Please do not even start with me that you're just going to attack sources.
Okay, so
that is ridiculous.
So you're saying
McMaster's lying.
I'm not saying McMaster is
Are you?
lying. Well, he didn't really answer the question. He didn't answer
He
the
said
question.
nothing.
That is ridiculous.
So are you saying McMaster is lying?
I'm not saying McMaster is
Are you?
lying. Well, he didn't really answer the question. He didn't answer
He
the
said
question.
nothing inappropriate was
He
shared.
said, no, that's his opinion.
That would be.
But that's his opinion.
That-
You cannot What's say, you appropriate cannot is his attack, opinion.
Yeah.
do not attack the stellar reporters of CNN.
Yeah.
Do not attack the stellar reporters of CNN
Okay.
who have their sources and
the
would protect
stellar
their sources.
reporters of CNN that I am going to attack right now and say, guess what? I don't believe them because they're staying anonymous. If they stand behind this story, come out, face the camera.
Can I just say something? All they've been doing is facing the camera,
The
Carl.
people who are in that room?
We have anonymous sources. We protect them for real reason.
Carl, you're embarrassing yourself. You're really? You're embarrassing yourself, your party, and your country. You're embarrassing yourself, your party, and your country. You should not be doing this. You're a better person than this. I'm ashamed for you.
This morning, I got the chance to be on NBC's Meet the Press, and I had this very interesting interaction with the Wall Street Journal columnist Kim Strassel.
I think we are having a discussion that is absolutely divorced from reality this week. It is astonishing to me. Let me set the scene for you. It's 2008. We were having an election, and candidate Obama, he's not even president-elect, sends William Miller over to Iran to establish a back channel and let the Iranians know that should he win the election, they will have friendlier terms. Okay, so this is a private citizen going to foreign soil, obviously in order to evade U.S. intelligence monitoring and establishing a back channel with a sworn enemy of the United States who was actively disrupting our efforts in the military in the Middle East. So is that bad judgment? Is that a bad thing that happened? Back channels are completely normal. They happen all the time. Reagan did them. Obama did them. Everyone did. So I'm not quite sure why supposedly having, at least the president's now elected, setting up a back channel with the Russians is somehow out of bounds.
The president is the head of the executive branch, a unitary executive branch. Constitutionally, he can control the branch. He could tell the director of the FBI, do not prosecute Flynn. He can say, prosecute so-and-so. There is no constitutional barrier to the president doing that.
But the fact that Flynn's part of this investigation was part of his team, I mean, in effect, doesn't he say, don't investigate me or my people?
So he has a conflict of interest. That's an
But that's not trying to obstruct justice? He violates... Just explain to me the difference there.
Because the president has to commit an unlawful act. And Nixon committed an unlawful act. The claim was that Clinton committed an unlawful act, perjury. But a president, by simply firing somebody or telling somebody to perform a constitutionally satisfactory function, that can't be an obstruction of justice. The president has a constitutional right now, to pardon Flynn, and to pardon everybody in the Russian investigation and say there will be no more investigations. None of that would be an obstruction of justice.
But if that's the case, I mean, this is a democracy. I mean, he is not a dictator.
Well, it's a democracy, and he was elected president. And as a result of being elected president, he has certain authority under the Constitution. There's a remedy. It's called election.